It is the DNC Night 3, and we are joined once again by KTLA 5's panel of political analysts.
Political consultant and analyst Matt Klink, civil rights attorney and political advisor Sonia Diaz, and Dakota communications consultant Kerman Maddox. Welcome to you all once again here on Night 3. And Kerman, let's start off with you. We all saw the excerpts of former President Obama's speech tonight, many calling it scathing against President Trump, saying that this is the first time that a former president is actually criticizing a sitting president. Tell us what your expectations are on President Obama's or former President Obama's speech tonight.
So first of all, let me just say, Chair, this is really a unique situation for former President Barack Obama because he's a man of integrity. He typically is always above the fray. So he doesn't really want to do this, but I think he believes that President Trump has been so divisive, so inept, he feels as though he has to make a speech like this. And what he's going to do, he's going to make the case for Joe Biden, fill in the blanks, because despite the fact that Joe Biden has been in public office many years, a lot of people don't know about him. So he's going to talk about his character, his capability, his competence, and his empathy. And so his charge is to fill in the blanks, number one, two, make the case for Joe Biden, and then three, make the case against President Trump. And he believes he's been so inept, so divisive, it's cost 100,000 lives because of the coronavirus epidemic and affected us in so many other ways. So he doesn't take this lightly, and he's put in a very uncomfortable position, but I think he believes he's obligated to do this because this is just not how he's typically wired. That's what I expect him to do tonight.
Matt Klink, for Kamala Harris, easily the biggest speech of her political career, an attempt tonight, among other things, to close the generation gap and bolster support for Biden among young voters as well as voters of color. What do you expect from Kamala Harris?
The question about which Kamala Harris we were going to see tonight. But I think now you're going to see someone who is really reintroducing herself to the American people. Someone who is going to try to talk about what her values are and why she is equipped to do the job from day one as vice president. She's going to talk in lofty, idealistic, and hopeful terms, in part because she's going to get Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama to turn the screws on Donald Trump, which is really smart on the Democrats' part. Allow her to talk about the future, which is what wins elections, not about the past.
And Sonia, we would love to hear from you. Of course, a big night for women of color, as Kamala makes history tonight, accepting that VP nomination.
It's an absolutely historical night that's on the eve of the centennial celebration of the 19th Amendment, which really was a movement for women to vote, but left behind so many voices, including those of Indigenous women, Black women, and of course, Latina women. So Senator Harris tonight is embracing the future. Like Matt said, I'm 100% in alignment that this is a night about women. It's a night about the future of this country, what the party will look like. And it's going to be a story that is told by young girls, by millennials, and by women who are not baby boomers, front and center. And this includes Senator Harris, her sister Maya Harris, a civil rights attorney, former senior advisor to Secretary Hillary Clinton, and her niece, Mina Harris, an entrepreneur. So these are fresh faces that are going to continue to show us the diaspora of female leadership, particularly what they term Black girl magic.
And to Matt Klink's point, an opportunity for Kamala Harris to talk about what voters can vote for rather than what they should vote against. Thanks to our panel, and we'll check back with you throughout our coverage tonight. A key night for Democrats. Let's welcome back KTLA 5's panel of political analysts. And Sonia, let's begin with you. We're hearing, of course, from President Barack Obama tonight, who is arguably the Democrat Party's brightest star to this day. And from what we're hearing, his support for Joe Biden is unequivocal, but that he does have concern about Joe Biden's support among younger Black voters and the general interest of young voters across all ethnic lines. What are you hearing, and do you see that as a point of concern?
Well, the president, I think, is really excited to welcome one of his close friends, Senator Kamala Harris, to the stage. And adding Senator Harris to the ticket has already shown through recent polling to increase the likelihood of Black and Latino voters to support the Democratic ticket. What I know is that all of these voters of color need to be mobilized, they need to be asked for their vote, and they need to be able to cast a ballot during the coronavirus pandemic. And this includes universal vote by mail, which they frankly do not know the most about, and also are likely to live in some of our states that have the most egregious voter suppression.
Kerman Maddox, to you, we know the initial impact of Kamala Harris on the ticket, $48 million to the Biden ticket within 48 hours of her being announced as the running mate. What do you see as her long-term impact to the ticket?
So I think she's had an immediate impact, you're right. But I think long-term, she's going to be really beneficial to the ticket in two major areas. One, she's generating excitement that the campaign hasn't had. And the excitement is coming from two different groups, not only younger voters, but younger African-American voters in those battleground states that we need to turn out. Two, I think she's going to generate excitement with suburban women in those battleground states. So she's a threefer. And I got to tell you, it shouldn't be lost on you that this historic night is going to really have an impact, not only on women of color, but people of color. I got to tell you, as a person of color, I'm really, really proud that this barrier has been broken. And then the more Trump attacks her, the more motivated people of color, especially African Americans, are to get out there and register and vote. Now, it's not the same as when Barack Obama ran in 2008, but it's a close second. So I think her long-term impact is going to be enough to generate enough excitement, enthusiasm, drive people to the polls. And I frankly think ultimately they're going to be victorious in the.
Matt Klink, to you, and this generational gap that we've been talking about and the concern among so many about the general interest of the younger voter, do you see it as a trouble point?
I think it's a trouble point, particularly for the Democrats, in that, prior to Harris joining the ticket, there was not a lot of enthusiasm for Joe Biden. Now, the question mark is whether Kamala Harris can maintain this, or if this is just the initial sugar high from nominating her to be on the ticket with Joe Biden. You're going to see when the Republicans come next week, my estimation is they're going to run a very hard-hitting, very negative campaign and drive up the negatives of both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as being out of touch. They know they're going to lose the coast. The question is the fight for the middle. And when you start talking about climate change and gun control and issues like that, that's when you start to lose people. And I think that's what, so it's all of this three-dimensional chess that's going on. But, young voters traditionally don't turn out in high numbers, and that's probably going to be the case this time as well.
We anticipate hearing from Secretary Clinton just about 5 minutes from now, and we'll carry that live. Matt Klink, Sonia Diaz, Kerman Maddox, good of you to be with us. We'll talk with you again shortly.
Night 3 of the Democratic National Convention underway, as you know, so let's take a deeper dive into it.
We are joined once again by our panel of political analysts, political consultant Matt Klink, civil rights attorney and policy advisor Sonia Diaz, and Dakota communications consultant Kerman Maddox. Matt, let me start with you, and let's reach back a few moments to Secretary Clinton. She, as we understand, spent much of the 2020 primaries telling friends that her friend and one-time rival, Joe Biden, is the only person that has a chance to beat President Trump. And tonight, again, a familiar position for the secretary, speaking on behalf of the top of the ticket. What did you make of it?
It's got to leave a bad taste in her mouth to speak not only about somebody else running for president in a race that she still believes she should have won, but then to compound insult to injury. She didn't even get to speak after the 7 o'clock hour, which is when all the primetime speakers come on. And I think there's a reason for that, is that Mrs. Clinton is very popular among the Democratic Party base, but she is arguably a very polarizing figure, and she's not a very good public speaker. So the combination of that relegated her to the 6 o'clock hour, and her speech was, if you're a Democrat partisan, you agree with her. If you're someone who's undecided or an independent, she didn't really resonate, but that's not her strong suit. Hillary's job is to mobilize the base and make sure that, unlike for her, that they turn out and vote, and it's a no excuse election, as she said.
That's right. The would have, could have, should have election 2016. A bit of a reminder, Kerman, of the loss that the Dems had in 2016, and her being the face of it, really.
Yeah, I mean, she reminds people she won the popular vote, but she lost the electoral college vote, and she's still bitter about that. I understand that, and she lost to, of all people, Donald Trump. But I think her job tonight was, and you're going to hear it over and over, not only a message to women, but also to young people. And so I'm going to disagree with Matt a little bit. She's not typically a good speaker, but I actually thought tonight she did pretty well in this particular format. I thought she connected with the people they need her to connect with. She used key buzzwords: racial justice, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. That's code for young people and African Americans, and that's who they need to turn out. So in that regard, I thought she did what she was supposed to do tonight.
And Sonia Diaz, we understand that Secretary Clinton has told confidants that she sees Kamala Harris as sort of a next generational leader. Your impressions of her 5 minutes on the stage?
You know, Secretary Clinton went in there and did what she had to do, which was to say, look, don't sit this one out. If you do, our country will not survive. And it's really important to put this into context. The people watching this are likely engaged in the election. Those that sat out or are planning to sit out are likely not watching the convention tonight. So what Clinton is doing is really raising the stakes. You can still win the popular vote and lose the election. And we simply cannot let that happen, was her message. She hearkened back to her 2016 campaign message of stronger together. And she also made clear that President Trump's question in 16 on the campaign trail of taking a risk and what's the worst thing that can happen is clear the chaos that we live in right now. And so this is really, don't sit this one out. You need to vote, and the ticket is strong.
Kerman, we're going to hear a little bit, we're going to hear a lot about Kamala's bio, about where she came from, who she is. And we're also going to hear from little girls who look up to her now that say, you know, she looks just like me. How important is tonight for the Black, the Latino, the Asian American voter, the women out there? How important is this moment?
It's incredibly important. Again, the historic moment for people of color cannot be lost on people. And it makes a lot of people really proud that we have this opportunity. We've broken this barrier. And again, I think her addition to the ticket adds a lot of energy and excitement for that target share that you just talked about. Women of color, young people, young girls who are going to be motivated and excited to tell their parents to get out there and vote for this ticket. So I think her addition has been nothing but beneficial for a ticket that lacked energy and enthusiasm. And I think going forward, again, she's going to introduce herself to the nation again tonight. She's going to fill in the blanks about Joe Biden, but again, from people of color. And I think Kamala Harris is going to do that.
And Matt Klink, we expect President Obama's remarks to be remarkable in their dismissiveness of a U.S. president by his predecessor. What do you anticipate hearing from President Obama? And to that point, it's a bit out of character for this president.
It is very out of character for him. He likes to do the vision thing and talking big picture about hope and change, and that's when he's at his best. But I think tonight that you are going to see a precision dismantling of Donald Trump from start to finish, and an equally strong building up the credibility and credentials and loyalty and resolution of his partner, Joe Biden. And President Obama is a master at giving the speech. And I think tonight he's going to leave everybody saying, wow. And Donald Trump is going to be fuming and his fingers will be rifling away on Twitter, but it's not going to compare.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Still ahead from the DNC, Elizabeth Warren, former President Barack Obama, and then the acceptance speech of Kamala Harris for vice president. We're going to take a break. Back in a moment.
welcome back. You just heard from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
And we are once again joined by our KTLA 5 panel of political analysts. And we just heard, as you said, from Nancy Pelosi, a lot of strong women coming on tonight for night 3 of the DNC, as they should, with Kamala Harris being the VP pick for tonight, accepting that VP nomination. I want to talk a little bit about Nancy Pelosi's speech. Tell me what you think the 24-hour news cycle is going to be on what she said tonight. And we'll start with Sonia.
I think Pelosi was pretty clear that she's playing to win in November, and it's not keeping the seats that were flipped in the historic 2018 midterms, but it's going further in not just preserving them, thinking about what other seats are up for grabs, because she seems to be wanting to provide a Democratic president in 2020 with the Congress necessary to continue to lead into the 2022 midterms. So she came guns blazing and she shouted out the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, as one of the people, in addition to the president, as being the biggest barriers for the American people during the coronavirus pandemic. So I think Pelosi has clarified her attack, and it's up to the other side in the Republican Party next week to see how they intend to villainize her or try and fight back for seats in Orange County and elsewhere across the country that they lost in 2018.
Matt Klink, you heard Pelosi a few moments ago, and again, it's partisan politics and the bickering we've seen so much of. Does it play in Dubuque?
It does, and it highlights it when all of us are playing checkers. Nancy Pelosi is playing chess, and by going after Mitch McConnell, the majority leader in the United States Senate, she listed him next to President Trump as the major obstacle for not allowing Democrat-led policies in the House going through. And Harry Reid, when he was the minority leader, targeted Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell has a tough race against a woman named Amy McGrath, a former fighter pilot in Kentucky. And Nancy Pelosi, as Sonia said, she wants to hold on to that speaker's gavel as long as she possibly can, and she wants big Democratic majorities in both houses for a hopeful Joe Biden presidency.
We want to thank our panel, Sonia Diaz, Matt Klink, and Kerman Maddox. And we want to thank you for watching tonight. We'll see you back here tonight for the news at 10 and 11.